Hi, y'all. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to Disrupt Your Now with me, your host, Lisa Kipps-Brown, and my co-host, Rachel Garrett Mercer. Hey, Rachel.
How are you?
Good. I'm good. I hope you're doing well, too.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all know that this show is all about helping you disrupt your now, to stop trapping yourself in your self-limiting thoughts and to stop living by labels and anything like that. So our guest tonight is going to really motivate you to do that. Our guest is Aaron Golub, and he is the first legally blind person to play Division I football, NCAA Division I football, and he went on to become an NFL free agent. Now he's an entrepreneur and a keynote speaker and just an awesome person. Oh, and by the way, he's in my book, my upcoming book, Disrupt Your Now. So, Aaron, take it away. Tell them more about your background and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, Lisa, first off, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to connect and share my story with your audience. But I was born legally blind. I have no vision in my right eye and very limited in my left. I started playing football in 7th grade and eventually was able to have the opportunity to play football at Tulane University, where I became the first legally blind Division I athlete to play in a game. Lettered in 3 of my 4 years at Tulane, was named a team captain in my senior year and went on to become an NFL free agent. Talked to a few teams, eventually decided to make a pivot into other areas of my life and went into the world of finance, the world of speaking, the world of entrepreneurship, and a few things kind of going on in those areas now, and that's what I do.
Yeah, and you have a podcast. Tell them about your podcast as well.
I do, yeah. So I have a podcast called Blind Ambition, which is on really all of the platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and it's just a show where I talk to people about their obstacles, their challenges, their disadvantages that they've had to overcome, and it's been phenomenal not only to share other stories, but it's a great networking tool, and it's built my network tremendously.
It is, isn't it? I've been doing my show since last summer, and I have met so many cool people. I think you and I originally met through Clubhouse, I believe. Maybe I heard you in a room.
I think correct me if I'm wrong. Someone connected us. I think it was it Justin Breen who connected us?
Oh, yes, it was Justin. Yes, you're correct. Yeah. Justin's in the book also. And Rachel is in the book. Well, I want to start out by you talking about how you ended up being a long snapper.
Yes.
Because this is, even though it's football, it's a great lesson for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So, in 7th grade, when I started playing football, I was an offensive and defensive lineman. And not only was I facing the challenge of being legally blind, but I was a really small, skinny, scrawny kid. And I wasn't very good. And I got to the point around sophomore year in high school where I was about a 3rd string junior varsity center and defensive tackle, and I wanted to play in college. I wanted to play Division I football. And I kind of had to take an honest look at my situation and said, this is never going to happen how it is right now, but it is possible still. And the first thing I had to do is I had to accept my reality and say, what can I do to make it there? And I had to find the right position for me, the right fit for me. And I found long snapping. And I said, if I get good enough at this, then maybe I'll have an opportunity to play in college. And that was the first step. The second area was I learned that I needed to work 10 times as hard as everyone else just to be as good as them. So I would wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I'd go to school. I'd practice long snapping. I'd go to school. I'd go to practice. I'd lift weights every single day after school. I did that for years, and it just compounded into making me a better football player, a better athlete, and eventually allowed me to get an opportunity to play at Tulane.
I just love that story, and it shows there's so many lessons in it because it's about assessing your strengths, assessing your weaknesses, figuring out your niche, because basically that's what a position is, figuring out your niche where there is a gap that you can excel in. And I just think it's so great that there's so many lessons in there for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, is that the first thing that you ever really went after? Is there something that made you have that drive in 7th grade, or what was the initial thing in your life that you can think of that was just was it just this innate thing that you were just I want to go after this thing really hard, or was it the desire to play football? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I played a lot of sports as a kid growing up, whether it been baseball or soccer or basketball, or I did sports that weren't team sports. I skied and snowboarded and still do, and things like that. But I think the thing that drove me was just internal. It was just the fact that I wanted to play. I wanted to do something great with my life. It wasn't external motivators. I tell people all the time that an external motivator is only going to take you so far. Like, yes, if I go to the gym and I'm about to squat 500 pounds, I'm going to think of something external to help motivate me for that next 30 seconds, because that's what's going to get me mad and upset and ready to lift that weight. But an external motivator can only take you so far in life. An internal motivator, having that fire, wanting to prove yourself right, is what's going to take you the actual distance. And that's what I had and still have.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know, Aaron, and probably most some of my listeners know, but my father was blind. And he was like that. He was so determined that it was not going to stop him from doing anything. He rode horses, shot guns. He played basketball with us. We play like around the world in horse, and we'd knock on the pole for the basketball goal so he'd know where it was. But I had to laugh when you said snow skiing and snowboarding, because most people would be like, how in the world does he do that? But it doesn't surprise me at all that you're able to.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah, I love it. But I have to say that being raised by a blind father, I feel like has given me the strength and the ingenuity to do things that I wouldn't have done otherwise, because it's like I just grew up looking at things differently, and I don't mean visually, I mean thinking of things differently and, going about things in a different way. It's like, oh, you don't have to do it like everybody else does it. And I'm sure that you have lived with that your whole life.
Yeah, and I think it's lessons for everything. There's always a creative solution. There's always a way to, find a solution. It doesn't always need to be going from point A to point B, whether it be in life or in business. Sometimes you have to go a different way. I might need to go from point A to point C to point D and then go to point B, but I'll still accomplish the goal, and I'll maybe do a much better job at it. It just, there's alternative paths, and people don't need to take the same path in everything they do.
I love that. I think that that's something that so many people can learn from. And like that resonates with me so much, because it is, sometimes you see someone else's prescribed path and you think, okay, they did X, Y, and Z, or like you're saying, it's like this linear path that sometimes we get stuck on. But understanding and thinking that you could do something completely different and get the same, if not better results. I think that that is something that, that really resonates with me. I don't know about you, Lisa, but I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think my brain is just weird, and I think really differently. And just even though I've been in this business for 25 years now, a couple of months ago, I read a book, and it's a very, very good book, an entrepreneurial book, very, very good book. But it got to this one part that was very, very prescriptive, like get up at this time. And I just was like, I can do this, because Aaron, I'm not a morning person. And I was like, I'm going to make myself do this. And I was the next day I slept later than usual, because my brain was going, this is not you.
You know why that is? It's because that, let's just say you wake up at 8 a.m. every day, and you said that you want to wake up at 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're going to do that one time, and then you're never going to do it again, because you're going to be tired.
Yep.
And the way around that is, you wake up at 8 a.m. every day. Great. Next week, you wake up at 7:50 every day. The week after, you wake up at 7:40 every day. The week after, you wake up at 7:30. That's the only way that your body and your mind can actually dial back and wake up at 6. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day, and half the time I wake up at 4:45 before my alarm, because I'm just used to waking up at 5. It's not an issue. I'm not tired when I get up anymore. But if I had been waking up at 8 and said, oh, tomorrow I'm going to wake up at 5, that's never going to happen.
Yes. Yeah. And even if I never get up at 5, it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, as long as you can get done what you need to do within the parameters that you want your life to be, that you like your life to be, and that you do best at. And that's one of the reasons that I'm writing the book, Aaron, is because there's so many people that build their business like everybody else in their industry. They look at everybody else and they go, oh, that's what they're doing. That's what I'm supposed to do. And they forget why they started a business in the first place.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes people misunderstand when I say that I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I do, but it's too many people wake up at 5 or 5:30 or something like that because they think it's cool or they think it's the right thing to do. Like, that's not why I wake up at 5. I wake up at 5 because I want to go to the gym and work out when no one else is around and no one's going to text me or call me or email me. It's my time to be by myself.
Yep.
If from 10 to 11 a.m. the entire world was going to shut off and no one would contact me, great. I would work out at 10 a.m. I love lifting weights. It's one of my favorite things. I love doing it in the morning, and I enjoy doing it when there's no distractions and no one's going to bother me. I don't wake up at 5 because it's cool. I wake up because no one else is up. No one else can talk to me.
Yeah, and that works for you to reach your goals. And that's like me in the middle of the night, like midnight, I can get so much more work done because I'm not worrying about what emails are coming in or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if I got up really early, it would just be the other end of the day, but just my natural biorhythms.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great point that you do it. And not just about getting up early, but the things that you do, you're doing them for a reason.
Yeah.
You're not doing them for external validation.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us about your speaking that you do. What type of clients do you speak to?
Yeah, it's a wide range. It could be companies, sports teams, nonprofits, events, really anyone who wants to bring me in to share my story, to motivate, to inspire, to deliver something to their team or their group to help them succeed at a higher level than they're currently succeeding at. And it's a lot of fun. There's no feeling like being on stage. It's exhilarating, exciting, and I love doing it.
Yeah, it is. And even with this show, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't have time. But then once you do it, it's so fun, and it's exciting. And it's not the thought of people looking at you or anything. It's just being able to engage and help other people, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite demographic, or do you have like a favorite one that you've done so far that just absolutely like lit you on fire?
I mean, my favorite is probably sports teams. I think it's just, for me, it's the most fun, whether it be Division I football or professional sports. Those are, for me, the ones I definitely get the most excited about.
Sure. Well, you can connect with that. Absolutely. Being from that background and things like that.
Yeah.
Not that you can't connect with other people, but I would imagine that they would be eating up even more of what you're saying just because they're like, oh my gosh, this is a guy to really like look at and really see what he's accomplished. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. And like my speech, it's all similar, but I'm going to tailor it to the audience. Like the exact speech and the stories I tell to, a Division I football team are going to be different than I tell to a Fortune 500 company sales team, or I tell to a high school, or I tell to a nonprofit. It's all going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that just your story in general, I think that is something that just inspires in different ways. You know what I mean? Like that definitely would resonate with a bunch of people, which I guess leads me, Lisa, I'm probably jumping ahead here. But how did you get into, you're talking about Fortune 500 companies and things like that, but financial advisor, where did that end up coming into your story?
Yeah. So I'll give you kind of a high level overview. I can't go into too much detail with my day-to-day because of work, but I studied finance in school and I really enjoyed it. And it was something where I wanted to be able to work with others. I wanted to be able to help others and build those relationships. And that was the area of finance that allowed me to do it. I didn't want to be sitting at a computer all day long. I wanted to really be working with others and helping them create success in their lives. And it just was a really good fit. And I've loved every second of it.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, you know this, but so before I started my own business, I also was a financial advisor. And so that piece of it as well, that connection with the clients, that relationship that you build is something really special. And so it takes a special kind of person to build those relationships with people. So I think it's really interesting that you have both the stage aspect of it where you're actually going out and talking to all these different groups of people, but also that like one-on-one relationship with people. I think that both ends of the spectrum are just such an interesting career. And I feel like you'd never be bored.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and it's sometimes things overlap. I mean, not in that sense, but like I'll host events, virtually, eventually in person that are geared towards finance, but then I'm speaking, and I it's essentially me trying to bring in clients, but I'm talking about finance. I'm talking about my story. I'm relating to people, and that's always a lot of fun because I can kind of combine the two in that area.
Well, and bringing what you're passionate about, absolutely.
Yeah, and I can see where in speaking with people who want to learn more about investing and maybe they're not self-confident about their ability to reach their goals and dreams, your angle of being able to reach the goals that you have can give them the self-confidence, even though it's something different. You can give them the self-confidence and they can learn from you to help them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I work with a lot of groups that nurture entrepreneurs, from economic development groups to nonprofits that help veteran entrepreneurs, and so groups like that. So if you were going to speak at an event for somebody like that, why share some advice now for some of our listeners that they would get from you, and especially from the angle of if maybe they already have their business and they're successful, but they're really not satisfied. They're feeling
yeah. I think everyone needs to take a look at themselves and understand what their disadvantage is. My disadvantage growing up was the fact that I was legally blind, and I was able to take that disadvantage and turn it into my greatest advantage, my greatest asset. And I think that everyone has a different challenge. Everyone has a different obstacle, a different disability, or a different disadvantage. Everyone's is different. No one person's challenge or obstacle is harder or easier than mine. It's just different, and how I handle it is different. I'm so thankful, so blessed, so grateful that I was born legally blind, because it allowed me to do incredible things, meet some amazing people, and have outstanding experiences. And when you can, apply the formula essentially of discipline, of accepting your reality, of focusing on the positivity and focusing on success, no matter your disadvantage, it can become your advantage.
Yeah. That is so powerful. And when you say accept your reality, so many people think of accepting their reality as like giving up, oh, well, this is how it's supposed to be for me. When in actuality, it's the total reverse of that.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, and that speaks to me so much too, just because, I say this on here all the time as well, but, I am a type 1 diabetic, and that's not something you can wish away either. Those are the things that you're stuck with, and you have to embrace that reality in some ways. And for me, it was kind of the catalyst, those health things for me as well, to go on this journey to entrepreneurship. And those, you're saying, it opens doors just because you almost have that extra level of connection with people and that empathetic ear. In your case, it's obviously different, but I think we all have those pieces or those things that, like, I focus on storytelling with clients. So, and I'm always asking, what are the things that make you different, or what are the things that really like connect you with people? And that is what I think, you're obviously doing that on stage for all these different demographics. You're finding that connective piece, that piece that you can bring out and speak to. And that's a really amazing thing, no matter what industry you're in. It's really important. Yeah. Absolutely.
Have you ever worked with any entrepreneurs one-on-one, Erin? Because I think that you would really be able to help even an individual define their advantages and disadvantages.
Somewhat. I'm not opposed to it. It's just, for me, most of my time is focused on growing my financial business and growing my speaking business. A lot of times, if people are interested in learning more and connecting with me, I've done, I did a call with someone last week for like 30 minutes, and I just talked and helped him with some questions with his business. And I just did it for free, and that was fine. If someone is really interested in working with me and it's the right opportunity, I would consider it, but it's not something I generally do very often. I have in the past, but it's not something I go out and look for.
So can you tell us maybe what your biggest surprise has been after getting out of football, getting out of school, and being out in the business world? What has been like your biggest surprise or the biggest lesson that you've learned?
It's really hard. I'm not just growing one business from the ground up. I'm growing two businesses from the ground up right now. And anything more than that would be insane. It's my days and weeks are very hectic. I love what I do, and I'm very productive, and I time block really well. But I have a lot going on, and it gets stressful. It gets anxious. It gets, all those feelings come into play all the time. And that's okay, because you have to understand that, I'm not going to build $1 billion base in finance tomorrow. I'm not going to be the next Tony Robbins on speaking tomorrow, but every single day I'm doing small steps to move the needle towards my goals.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I will have my goals accomplished, and that's okay. It doesn't need to happen tomorrow. And I think that the lesson of patience has been one of the most difficult things I've had to, continuously work on, because everyone wants things now, and so do I. And it's hard to get yourself to wait and keep going.
Yeah, I remember when we talked, I guess it wasn't a week or so ago. It was when I was reviewing the interview from where we spoke about the book. And you were saying that you work 3 times as hard, or ever how many times as hard. So it might take you longer to get to something, but because you're working 3 times as hard, you end up getting there at the same time or sooner than the person who isn't working as hard. And I probably totally screwed that up, but
I understand my weaknesses, and I understand how to kind of work around them. For me, I have to time block very well. I have to, focus on certain tasks and not multitask. There's a lot of aspects to how I create success in my life to make up for my vision. And, you just have to figure out what those are for yourself. And once you're able to do that, it becomes a lot easier to get momentum and build success.
So you feel like time blocking and being very precision oriented like that's been one of your greatest tools to be able to reach your goals?
Absolutely. On days that I don't time block well, then, my days are, things could come and go, and it's not as structured. You don't get as much done. But if you're really focused and you time block the entire day, then there's a lot more productivity, and you're going to get a lot more things done. And it's about doing. It's not just about time blocking. It's about doing what's on your calendar when it's on your calendar. Yeah. I think that a lot of people time block, and then they see what comes up at 10 a.m. They're like, oh, let me just keep working on this. Now, you might not be done with that thing, but you go to the next thing and you keep going. Then later, when that task from 9 a.m. comes, back again on your schedule at 2, you go back to it. It's just, you have to do what's on your calendar when it's on your calendar.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I need to be better about doing that.
Me too. I'm not good at it.
Yeah, I'm not either. And I have been really trying to work on that, especially since our last conversation, Aaron. Yeah. I really have. I've been blocking off time. I haven't been great about following through, but I've been better than usual. Now, I want to ask you, what do you see as your biggest weakness? Because I don't consider being legally blind a weakness. It just makes you different. So what do you think is your biggest weakness? Like, I can tell you with mine, I'm all over the place. I'm like total squirrel, always seeing interesting things and have a hard time focusing.
Honestly, my biggest weakness is probably that I rush into things a lot. I get an idea and I jump at it and I just go 100%. And that's great in some instances, but it's really bad in other instances. And I'm fortunate that I work with people who are able to tell me, Aaron, we need to take 5,000 steps back and start here instead of here. And I just kind of rush to, how can I get this done right now? And sometimes that's, I'm doing better at not doing that and kind of looking at it from a 10,000 foot overview. But I, in the past, have liked to rush into things.
Yeah, I can totally connect with that, because I'm like that too. And Rachel's dad, Ron, we both we got all these ideas and we're just like full steam ahead. And you really do have to pace yourself and take a step back, because maybe it's not a good idea anyway. But the reason I was laughing is because from the times that we've talked, I would have never guessed that you're like that, because you come across as so calm and orderly, and I know I come across hyper and spastic a lot of times. But I'm just really surprised that you are like that.
Yeah, it's it can be a good and a bad thing, but I'm working on not just jumping 100% into things when I don't necessarily think them all the way through.
Yeah.
I think we all need like a little bit of everything though. You know what I mean? We need people on each team that have a little bit of both. The realistic people, then the big dreamers, like, you know, that actually have the big ideas and that want to drive things forward. Because I would think that that's a good thing, you know, something that's actually move the needle. That piece of it absolutely is good, but having somebody rein you in a little bit.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people who cannot come up with those ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Have you taken the Colby test, Aaron?
I have. I do not remember what my score was.
Oh, okay. The only reason I remember mine is because Rachel's dad and I have almost the exact same score. We're only like off one, and I don't remember which ones. You could basically overlay ours, and we had always said we share half a brain. And when we did the Colby test, we were like, okay, now I get it. But I actually took it because Justin was talking about it, and I hadn't heard it before.
He sent me it. I don't remember what my score was, but I know I sent it to him, and he was like, wow, that's really unique. I've never seen that before.
Well, I want you to send me yours later if you think about it, because I'm curious just to see.
Yeah, I'll try and find where it is.
Yeah. Well, and I have another question. This is different angle, but you know, you talked about lifting weights. Is that how you deal with stress and anxiety, or do you have other things that you do?
Definitely a part of it. You know, I meditate every day as well, and try and, you know, take deep breaths and relax. But lifting weights is definitely an area for me that, you know, relaxes me and gets me in a good mood and releases stress. Absolutely.
So when you meditate, do you set aside time and do it for like 15, 30 minutes or an hour, or do you do more like mini sessions where if you feel like things are getting too crazy, you just take a step back and take a few breaths?
I pretty much just do it, you know, set aside a time throughout the day, you know, that I do it for 15, 20 minutes, whatever. But, you know, sometimes if it's a really stressful day, I'll, you know, just take time and take some deep breaths and try and relax a little as well.
Yeah. So, I want to know if you had one tip. Well, it's probably one of the ones that you've already given, but if you had one tip for an entrepreneur out there who's struggling, feeling like they're not good enough, or they'll never be able to reach their dreams, what would be your one tip that you think might help them the best?
So I'm going to give you one, but it's really going to kind of be like three. So I'm sorry.
That's great.
Be the hardest working person in the room, be the most creative person in the room, and don't listen to anyone else's opinion. I think that so many people are entrepreneurs and they think they're working hard, and realistically you're not. You're really not working as hard as you should be. Be really creative, find creative ideas and ways to succeed outside of the box. And lastly, I think the biggest reason most people don't succeed is because they listen to other people's opinions. You know, I say it all the time. I don't care what anyone thinks. I know I'm going to succeed. I know I'm going to be, you know, a top financial advisor, a top speaker, I'm going to write best-selling books. I'm going to do all that. And I really don't care if anyone else thinks otherwise, because I know I'm going to do it. But too many people are so insecure that they listen to other people's opinions, and then they let that dictate their actions, and then they don't take action because they're afraid of what other people think.
Mm-hmm. You are so right. And I think especially when we listen to friends and family, and they love us, but they're too close to us, and they're too close to us, so they might not see that we do have these capabilities, you know, because we're so familiar, or they might worry for us that we're going to fail, so they want to, you know, kind of protect us, or they worry that, if we do too well, maybe we'll leave them behind. And so I think listening to friends and family is one of the worst things to do. Yeah. Rachel, what do you think?
Oh my gosh, I was thinking, it was bringing back all these memories for me, because it's so true. You know, you tell someone you want to do something. I remember this even from last year, even having a supportive entrepreneurial family. You know, we've all kind of had that entrepreneur bug, and it's still where everyone's kind of coming from a place of concern, but people have thoughts and people have opinions. And when you tell someone you're making a shift like that and kind of jumping off the deep end, you know, into whatever it is that like fuels your heart, you're gonna just absolutely have to tune out the things that will drag you down. And I think it takes a special kind of person. I know we all kind of figure this out in the entrepreneur space, but you have to, like you're saying, tune that out, but find the things that help you tune that out. So is that finding people that are ahead of you in your same space? Is it finding people like this, that kind of fuel your heart a little bit? Lisa, you and I talked about that, how lonely it can be to be an entrepreneur, because sometimes your spouse or whoever it is doesn't quite understand that just because their brain works differently.
Right.
It's a place of concern. I think that's just, oh my gosh, y'all just brought up all those memories, because people are supportive. They don't always get exactly what you're trying to accomplish. And
especially because you started your business during COVID, Rachel, and they probably thought, oh my gosh, there are millions of social media people and millions of writers. Aaron, do you have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs?
I do. I have a good amount of, or I know a good amount of people who are entrepreneurs. I mean, it's interesting because everyone who I grew up with or went to college with are not entrepreneurs, but ever since I kind of started the whole speaking stuff, I got connected to one person, you get connected to another person, and now I have a network of, I can't even count how many entrepreneurs I'm friends with.
Yeah. And the great thing about entrepreneurs, and I'm sure that you have seen this, is most are genuinely helpful. They really want to help other entrepreneurs.
And it's because that they understand the time and the effort and the struggle that it takes. So they're willing to help someone else.
So true. I know I mentioned earlier about you, the niche thing with you, the analogy between the long snapping and an entrepreneur finding their niche, but also when you were working towards becoming a free agent in the NFL, that's another time when you had to take a step back and assess your goals and what you wanted to do and how you wanted your life to be, and you pivoted to a different direction.
No, it was a time that one of my dreams was to play in the NFL, and could I have made a team if I had tried for another 12, 18, 24 months? Maybe not. I don't know. But I had other dreams, I had other aspirations, and I wasn't willing to put them on hold, because realistically, if I was training all day to be in the NFL, I couldn't have gone to finance. I would have had to do, a part-time job or something else to pay the bills while I was training. And I would have just been delayed on that career. And I wouldn't have probably gotten into speaking, because I would have been focused on, training for football or going to tryouts. And I'm very happy I made the decision that I did. It jump-started my career by several years. And, obviously, would it have been amazing to play on a team in the NFL? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't regret my decision at all. I made the right decision, and I'm happy that I did it.
Yeah. You prioritized your goals, right?
Absolutely.
And I think it's interesting too. I mean, I know for me at least, dreams can take different shape over time. So things that were once the thing that you thought would be the forever can really turn into a different dream as you have more life experience. I'm sure you've kind of felt like that over your life too. Things just kind of take different shape as you learn more about yourself. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that it always changes. It always shifts. I think that you never know, your dream in 5 years from now is going to be different than it is today. I promise you that. I mean, I think that at this point, I'm probably going to be in the same businesses and want to grow my same businesses. But at the same time, you never know. Who knows? Something else may come up and I may add that or replace one of mine, or you never know, because things change, things shift, circumstances differ. You meet different people, and you really never know.
Or even your strategy too, building a business, maybe your strategy is different as well, pivoting and whatever that looks like you're saying, a different stage of life. If you have kids, it might look a little different than, other things as well for some people. Lisa,
and I think
for that too.
I think going off of the point of building a business, one thing that I think people should understand, and I know I'm going to sound hypocritical because right now I'm building two businesses, but in some ways they complement each other and they flow and it works. And so that's fine. I think you see all these entrepreneurs building 4, 5, 6 businesses when they're young, or it's their first thing. And I have to say, in my opinion, that's the stupidest thing you can ever do.
Totally.
The way to create success, the way to get wealthy, is to build one business and focus all of your time and effort on it. And I know what people are probably thinking, well, you're building 2 things at once. Well, that is true, but there are a lot of ways that they complement each other and work together.
Right.
And I'm not going to add anything else. Like, yes, I'm building things for both of them, but there are a lot of complements between the two. And because of that, it works. I wouldn't add a third or a fourth business.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, it does. And while you were saying that, I thought of something I wanted to say. And because I am so scatterbrained, now I forgot what it was. So y'all talk and then I'll remember. That's the way my brain works. That I know now. There's so many people now that brag and call themselves serial entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah.
And there are true serial entrepreneurs out there, but a lot of people who claim they're serial entrepreneurs are not the true serial entrepreneurs. It's people who've gone from thing to thing to thing and never really succeeded in anything. And they pride themselves more on just hopping around from between things than really succeeding in anything.
Yeah, that's not a serial entrepreneur. A serial entrepreneur is you do something for 5 years, you sell your business. You do something else for 7 years, you sell your business. You do something for 12 years, you sell that's a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, and you see so many people out there that they've owned a business for a few years, they stopped it, they started another one. It's like, no, that's not it. I think it's Steve Sims who told me, my coach Steve, he knows Richard Branson. And I think it was him that told me that Branson, every new product or company they come out with, he totally focuses on that. Even though he has this big company, but he is all in on whatever the new thing is and gives it his all until he knows, okay, this is going to be able to make it a go, or it's not. And he cuts it loose and goes. And I thought that was very interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like there's a value in doing mini launches too for things like that as well, because then your metrics on things like that, not to go too far analytical or anything like that. But I think that's where a lot of those pieces come in as well, because then you can track your successes and then you know exactly what's working and what's not. So as you're building a company, you can add those pieces in and know exactly what's working and help you grow those pieces that really are. I think that's important to note as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Erin, let's tell people how they can find out more about you. I want to ask you, right now with the speaking, are you doing any personal in-person speaking, or are you doing everything virtually?
I do some in person, not a ton, because most people are not willing to do that. But yes, if someone is looking for an in-person event, I am more than happy to do that. You can feel free to reach out to me, and I am willing to do that if it's the right event. I'm like to make sure it's a good fit on both ends before I commit to any speaking opportunity. But you can find me at aarongolub.com, on LinkedIn, Aaron Golub, on Instagram or Twitter at Aaron J. Golub. Shoot me a message. I respond to everything, and happy to connect.
Yeah, and if any of y'all out there do need a speaker, I can tell you just from my conversations with Aaron that I've had over the past several months, you would not regret it. Whether it's motivation for a sales team or whatever, it would be that you would be a great speaker for them. Okay, so tell them where the name of your podcast is Blind Ambition, right?
Yeah, and there's links to that on my website, aarongolub.com. You can find it on Apple, on Spotify, and YouTube. Really, any place that you find podcasts, you can find it.
Okay. Are you looking for any particular type guests for your podcast? If there's anybody out there that's interested in guesting, or are you booked up?
I have a lot booked right now, but if you're interested, reach out. I have to say my team can be very particular, making sure it's the right fit, but feel free to, reach out and I'll pass it along to my team who helps me with that.
Yeah, no, that's great. They should be particular. And for people listening, Aaron knows other podcasters, and I'm sure other speakers, right, Aaron? So if he feels like he's not the right person for you, he can still recommend other people. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure you would rather somebody have the right match than for it to be you if you don't.
Oh, absolutely. It's not always a good fit for, someone to come on my podcast or me to go on someone's podcast or for me to speak at someone's event, but I have a wide network of all of that. So there's tons of podcasters that I know. There's tons of speakers that I know. And I might say no to events simply because it's just the message they want, the theme that they want isn't what I talk about. But I might know, Joe over here who would speak really well to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we greatly appreciate you coming on here tonight. I've been looking forward to having you on here, and Rachel and I getting to pick your brain.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. And we will talk to you later. And everybody else, Thursday night on my Adaptable Entrepreneurs show, my guest is Monifa Keynes. She is a veteran who owns a company called Queen of Spades, and it's accessories and so forth. But she just announced, it was yesterday, that she has been accepted into a program through Macy's, that through an initiative through Bunker Labs, she was accepted into this thing with Macy's. And I can't remember the details, but go look her up on LinkedIn and come listen to her on my show Thursday night. You can learn more about it. So thanks, everybody. And thank you again, Aaron, for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hang on for just a second after we get off, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, bye, everybody.